Done that. So if we recreate the plan, it'll show that I wasn't against it, and that Dudley's resignation was pointless. Right? Put it top of the agenda for the next cabinet. Okay?
Yes, Prime Minister.
There's comedy on 2 in a moment with French and Saunders.
Mother, you're back.
Thompson, after the news. And here is the news now on 1 with Martin Lewis.
Mr. Kinnock accuses Mrs. Thatcher of tantrums over extradition. Oxygen to the terrorists, he says. The Prime Minister heads for a showdown with Belgium and Ireland over the Patrick Ryan affair. And how electricity will be privatised. The Energy Secretary rejects Labour predictions of big price increases. Good evening. As Mrs. Thatcher flew out to tackle the Belgian and Irish governments over the Patrick Ryan extradition request, the Labour leader, Mr. Kinnock, attacked her for the way she's handling the affair. He accused the Prime Minister of using tantrum language about countries with whom we have a long record of partnership against terrorism. And that, he said, hindered rather than helped international cooperation against terrorism. His comments followed a statement by the Attorney General to the House of Commons about the problems in extraditing Father Ryan from Ireland.
The Attorney General, Sir Patrick Mayhew, reported to Cabinet this morning on an issue that's now seriously damaging Anglo-Irish relations. He told ministers that it was 5 days since the final warrants for Patrick Ryan's extradition had been sent to Dublin, and still Ryan was a free man. The Prime Minister then went to the Commons to reject claims that the Crown Prosecution Service had mishandled Britain's application for Ryan's extradition.
Any suggestion that the failure to secure Ryan's arrest is attributable to any fault of the Crown Prosecution Service is absolutely unwarranted.
In the Commons on Tuesday, Mrs. Thatcher effectively accused the Irish as well as Belgian governments of betraying the international effort against terrorism. But wouldn't such language hinder and not help matters?
Could she tell me what contribution to that process she thinks her remarks on Tuesday, her highly orchestrated prejudgment of the attitude of the Irish authorities before they had taken a decision on an extradition application in accordance with their own legal processes?
Mrs. Thatcher would have none of that. The warrants were in order, and yet Ryan remains in Ireland, apparently in hiding.
That is now over 5 days since all the relevant documents were sent to Dublin. No questions have been raised as to the sufficiency of the statements of fact and law. That is a very important matter to all of us in the United Kingdom.
The Attorney General rejected arguments that because of the publicity following Mrs. Thatcher's protests, Ryan would never get a fair hearing in the UK.
I hope that lessons will be learned from this application, which may facilitate what I trust and believe to be the object of both governments, that is, namely, to bring persons suspected of serious offences to justice in the courts of the country where the offences are alleged to have occurred.
What is important now is to repair the damage of the bad relations made by the Prime Minister in what I regard as an hysterical outburst, so that we can get on with extraditing those for whom good cause can be shown.
The Irish government insists they're still considering Britain's application, but they've made clear they won't submit to political pressure from London on how they should interpret their laws. Tonight, the Labour leader, Neil Kinnock, has intervened and accused the Prime Minister of giving terrorists a propaganda cause by inadvertently providing them with enriched oxygen, the very stuff of life she has said she wants to take away from them. And so at Westminster there's now no prospect of a united front on the Ryan case.
As Mr. Kinnock spoke, Mrs. Thatcher was well on her way to the European summit in Rhodes and her meeting tomorrow morning with the Irish Prime Minister, Charles Haughey.
This morning, a newspaper in the Republic published an interview with Patrick Ryan. In it, he said he was prepared to die rather than be extradited to Britain for trial.
The Irish Prime Minister left for the summit with a mandate even from domestic political opponents to demolish face-to-face Mrs. Thatcher's attack on Ireland's record in fighting IRA terrorism. Significantly, he travelled via Belgium, whose commitment was also questioned. The local newspaper in Father Ryan's home county today published an exclusive interview. Anne O'Grady, the reporter, says the priest threatened another hunger strike if extradition proceedings were started. He denied he was an IRA terrorist. His job was raising funds for Republican victims of the Northern Ireland Troubles.
He told me he had never been a member of the IRA and never intended to become one, that he had never collected money for arms, and that if money for arms was offered to him, he would refuse it.
Why was he travelling on false passports?
He admitted that he had a false passport. He maintained that this was because he was finding it increasingly difficult in the early 1970s to pass through frontiers, particularly in France, and he said that he had a job to do.
This market town in County Tipperary is at the heart of efforts to stop the extradition of Father Patrick Ryan. The newspaper interview was the terrorist suspect's method of addressing that support without coming out of hiding. The rural backing for Father Ryan has revitalised the entire anti-extradition movement. A variety of political groups are capitalising on a widespread suspicion of Britain and British institutions.
A political climate there, stoked on by the Thatcher government and gutter press rags, which ensure that no Irish person charged with politically related offences stands a chance of getting a fair trial in Britain.
There is no hope whatsoever of any Irish citizen charged with any offence related in any way to the struggle for the freedom of this country that can get a fair trial or anything like it.
The next demonstration is a march in Dublin on Saturday, 3 days before the Irish Parliament debates the renewal of its extradition arrangements with Britain.
In Rhodes, where Mrs. Thatcher will have a separate meeting with Mr. Haughey tomorrow, the official agenda focuses on the community's relations with the rest of the world. But Mrs. Thatcher may use it to criticise the attitude of other Europeans in the fight against terrorism.
Expecting a difficult meeting with Charles Haughey, the Irish Prime Minister, arrived in Rhodes this evening. Mr. Haughey, who's still recovering from his recent operation, was reluctant to talk about the controversy over Father Ryan. But what would he tell Mrs. Thatcher tomorrow?
Well, the meeting is not yet fixed for tomorrow. It mightn't be tomorrow, it might be later.
Will you be able to tell her anything about Father Ryan's future?
What is discussed at these meetings is confidential.
Mrs. Thatcher herself took off from London on her way to the summit just as Mr. Haughey was arriving in Rhodes. They'll both spend tonight in the same hotel, and they're scheduled to meet tomorrow morning. Rhodes has assumed an unusual... Put the plant in.